the lower the income, the more inflation harms you. It's a hidden tax. And as you probably see me wear many T-shirts, taxation is theft. And so this is the hidden tax that is really harming those who can least afford it.
McDonald's and other big brands warn that low-income consumers are starting to crack. This is another manifestation of inflation, and you've been saying this for months. It's the folks at the middle and lower levels of income that really get crushed by something like inflation.
Yeah, because I'm blessed at my income level. Inflation, I don't like it. I don't like paying more for goods and services than I think I should. But I can weather the storm, where unfortunately, Chip, the bottom 40% of Americans cannot. Think of the single mom working 2 jobs, trying to support her kids, pay for dance lessons, etc., and even just going out to get a meal. If the price of those meals keeps going up, and if you haven't been to a fast food restaurant lately, it's quite expensive to even get one. If you pick up 4 family meals, it's well over $50. There's no more, where $20 would feed a family of 4. Yeah, and so, and that's unfortunately, it's disproportionately, it's regressive. It's going to harm the lower the income, the more inflation harms you. It's a hidden tax. And as you probably see me wear many T-shirts, taxation is theft. And so this is the hidden tax that is really harming those who can least afford it.
Now, David, there are some voices out there saying, well, inflation's not going up, at least not like it did before, but the article mentions sticky inflation, something you've mentioned before. Remind us what sticky inflation is and why that hurts.
Well, sticky inflation is inflation that sticks around for a long time. And so in the energy sector, right, when energy goes up, when oil goes up, oil not only makes gasoline to power your car, but it also makes a million byproducts that are petroleum-based, right? And that comes from a barrel of oil. I don't care, from Vaseline to plastic bags to the packaging of things you purchase at Walmart or Target every day. All those things have higher input costs, and it takes a couple of years for that to work out of the system. In other words, if I'm buying the oil and refining it and then turning it into petroleum-based products, that's a 2-year cycle before that unwinds, so it's a long time before it goes away. And on top of that, housing has gone through the roof, which is 44% currently of the inflation calculation, the way the government calculates CPI. By the way, if you calculated CPI today, Chip, the same way you did in 1982, it's running about 18%. So the government moves the numbers around to try to hide some of the inflation. And again, this is what harms people. You're paying a lot more for everything today than you did just a few years ago. Now, the current administration is like, hey, we got inflation down to 3 and change, right? It's almost to our target of 2%. Well, that means things still cost 3 and change more than they did 12 months ago, right? But you have to take the last 4 years and stack all those numbers up. We had 6% inflation, 9% inflation, 6% inflation, and now 3 or 4% inflation. That's over 20% when you add that up. And so that is the pain and suffering. Prices are not getting cheaper. That would be deflation or disinflation. And so we have to be aware that we're still paying more for goods and services. A moderate inflation is usually to be accepted. But, prior to having a central bank, now we don't have time for the history lesson today, but we created the central bank, the Federal Reserve, in 1912. Prior to that, inflation was never over 1%. From the start of our country. Inflation is directly related to debt because the debt comes with an expense, and that expense increases, which creates the inflation to begin with.
Oh, we do cartwheels today for 1%.